Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Duke, and this is another episode of Right Makes Might. Well, the cataclysmic shockwaves of the Trump election are streaming across the country, and not surprisingly, it is the young, the social justice warriors, the mal-educated American youth out of our public government schools who are protesting the loudest. And it is really ironic. We've got to stop calling these pampered, ignorant school kids from kindergarten through high school. We've got to stop calling them snowflakes. Snowflakes are unique. There's only one. No two are alike. Snowflakes are ephemeral. They come and go. Snowflakes are radically individual. No two are the same. That's not our social justice warriors. We've got to come up with a better word for them. I propose the word ticks. You know, the little clinging arachnids, the parasites that feed off the blood of a host. Ticks is a better word. In fact, we could even call them arachnid anarchists or arachno-anarchists. They're parasitical. They don't produce anything themselves. They glom on to a rich, healthy host, and they suck the life out of it. They're tenacious. Unlike the ephemeral snowflake, they don't go away. And they're narcissistic. They're completely self-involved. I love the image of the tick because, like the donkey that puts its head in the sand or up his butt, not to know what's going on in the world, the tick has its tiny little pea-brained head buried into the flesh of somebody else, so they can pay no attention to the realities of the world around them. That strikes me as perhaps the best metaphor. If you're paying attention now, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of these little arachno-anarchists patrolling the streets of Los Angeles, of Chicago, and New York. Violent protests, threats, intimidation. Portland, Oregon yesterday, we've got these kids turning violent, throwing rocks and bottles. We have an epidemic now of Trump supporters on college campuses, in the streets, in these protests, people who support Donald Trump being beaten up viciously simply for casting the vote. And the thing that gets me about this is that these protesters are so benighted, so ignorant historically and culturally, that they are demanding the protection of democracy for their increasingly violent protests. This is a democracy, even though we know it's not a democracy, America. We demand democratic freedom to protest, to riot, to skip class, to not have to take exams. We demand a immediate recount. We demand the Electoral College be disbanded immediately. We demand a petition to instate the woman we think should have been president. They're screaming in the name of democracy for all those things, not realizing for 1 second that what they're protesting is the same thing they claim for themselves. They're protesting a democratically held election where, by all accounts, the only reports of voter fraud we have are voter fraud from the left. They're using democracy and their right to be democratic citizens to protest the very process that gave us the latest president. Yeah, the universities are, of course, complicit in this. Cornell University, you turned the quad yesterday into a crying zone, where 20-something university students could come to the middle of the quad and they could sob and cry and console one another. Yale University, famously, and universities all across the country are canceling classes, canceling exams, providing all sorts of resources, coloring books, crayons, to help these little precious ticks deal with the problem of democracy, which, again, they claim that they represent. I asked my students the other day, what do you think would happen? Or what did happen in 2008, 2012? What do you think would have happened if Hillary won this election? And a group of conservative university students, a group of conservative or Christian kids went and told their teachers, we want off of the exam because Hillary Clinton won. We're stressed out because another unaccountable liberal demagogue is going to wrench our country further to the left. You know what the response my university kids said to me? They would be ignored and their requests would be mocked by those very same professors. And that's exactly right. There were no safe spaces in 2008 and 2012. And if you think about it, Donald Trump is less an ideologue than Obama. Obama is universally left in all his opinions. He is so far out of the mainstream on issues like partial birth abortion, for instance, which he supports, way to the left. Donald Trump supported Hillary Clinton, paid millions and millions of dollars to Democrats across the years. His platform on abortion, for instance, is very much a Democrat platform. There's much more about Donald Trump that crosses parties than there is Barack Obama. And yet when Donald Trump is elected, you'd think it was the end of the world. Everything was being pulled down. But in 2008 and 2012, when the much more radical Obama was elected, there were no safe spaces. There also were no riots in the streets. There also were no Obama supporters being beaten well-nigh near death in the name of democracy. Our founding fathers knew, and if our teachers at the middle, high school, and university level bothered to teach our students that we are a republic, not a democracy, our kids might know that the founding fathers and the ancient Greeks saw democracy as mob rule. And what you're seeing on the streets of America is the result of decades of inefficient, inadequate, and dishonest history teaching. The democratic mobs we now see filling the streets are the exact antithesis of what Republican government should be. Well, now we have a Republican government, and we'll see what happens.
This is Right Makes Might with Dr. Duke.